Senate Resolution 5, introduced by Senator Cannizzaro et al., inducting Joseph Paul Hardy into the Senate Hall of Fame. Whereas the Senate of the Legislature of the State of Nevada has established a Senate Hall of Fame whose members are selected by leadership from those past senators who have served with distinction and who have made exemplary contributions to the state of Nevada. And whereas Joseph Paul Hardy, better known as Joe, was born in Reno, Nevada and graduated from Sparks High School where he served as the student body president. And whereas Joe received his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Nevada, Reno before attending the School of Medicine at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, receiving a Doctor of Medicine degree and served as a major in the United States Air Force for 9 years before beginning his career in private practice. And whereas outside of his service to the legislature, Joe served as a Boulder City councilman and mayor pro tempore and enjoyed a career as a family physician and associate professor at Touro University, Nevada. And whereas in 2002, Joe was elected to the Nevada Assembly, and in 2010, he was elected to the Nevada Senate, serving 8 years in the Assembly and 12 years in the Senate, where his service extended to the Interim Finance Committee, the Legislative Commission, and nearly every Senate committee. And whereas during his tenure in the Senate, Joe served in leadership positions such as Minority Whip, Assistant Minority Leader, and President pro tempore. And whereas Joe was a champion of improving health care in Nevada and sat on the Committee of Health and Human Services every regular session that he served. And whereas Joe is known for being a dedicated and knowledgeable public servant who serves this state with humility, dignity, and unwavering commitment to the people of Nevada. And whereas in 2022, Joe was elected as mayor of Boulder City, where he continues his long career of public service, and where his eldest son, Joe Hardy Jr., had the distinct pleasure of administering the oath of office in his official capacity as a judge in the Clark County District Court. And whereas Joe has continuously demonstrated his passion for public service through his elected offices, military service, career as a physician, involvement in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the various other public bodies on which he has served, now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Nevada that for his many years of devoted service to the state of Nevada as a member of both the Nevada Senate and Assembly, to Boulder City, and as a physician, Joseph Paul Hardy is hereby inducted into the Senate Hall of Fame of the Legislature of the State of Nevada, and be it further resolved this resolution becomes effective upon adoption. End of resolution.
Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt Senate Resolution number 5.
You've heard the motion. Are there any remarks from the floor? Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor today to rise in support and introduce my good friend and former Senator Joseph Joe P. Hardy as 2023 Senate Hall of Fame inductee. Senator Hardy was born in Northern Nevada and raised in Sparks, where he graduated from and served as student body president of Sparks High School. After completing a mission for the Church of Latter-day Saints in France, he went on to earn a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Nevada, Reno, and received a Doctor of Medicine from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Senator Hardy served as a major in the United States Air Force. After his military service, he moved to Boulder City to embark on his nearly 50-year medical career. He and his beloved wife, Jill, are proud parents of 8 children, all of whom attended school in Boulder City, and many grandchildren who are now attending Boulder City schools. Before beginning his legislative career, Joe served as a member of the Boulder City Council from 1999 to 2002, where he was chosen as mayor pro tempore. He was then elected to the State Assembly in 2002. While serving there from 2002 to 2010, he honed his policy-making skills in several policy committees, including Education, Health and Human Services, and Government Affairs, among others, while also serving on Assembly Ways and Means. He was named Assembly Co-Minority Whip in 2007. In 2010, Joe was elected to the Nevada State Senate. During his tenure in the Senate, Senator Hardy served in many leadership positions, including Senate Minority Whip in 2013, Senate President Pro Tem in 2015, and Senate Assistant Minority Leader for the 2019 and 2021 sessions. While in the Senate, he also served on the Commerce and Labor, Health and Human Services, and Government Affairs committees, to name a few of his many policy interests. During his 20 years as a state legislator, Senator Hardy's primary concerns were for the people of Nevada and the public health of its citizens. Senator Hardy served on the Health and Human Services Committee during every session of his entire legislative service and as Senate Chair in 2015. While Senator Hardy is well known for his knowledge of medicine, he was also known as someone who studied the craft of legislation. He often rose on the floor of the Senate with an eye towards making Nevada a better state for all. His voice was always compassionate, eloquent, humble, and well-reasoned. Senator Hardy championed many issues during his time in the legislature, including legislation requiring health care plans to provide coverage for prescriptions and prohibiting health insurance companies and health care plans from denying coverage. He also passed legislation to allow law enforcement and certain licensing boards access to the database that tracks controlled substances. Healthcare, veterans issues, and advocating for education and welfare of children of our state were never far from Senator Hardy's mind. Outside of his desk here in the Senate, it was also widely known that Senator Hardy was often giving of his medical knowledge. Throughout his storied medical career, he was board certified by the American Board of Family Medicine for over 35 years and was twice named Nevada Family Physician of the Year. Senator Hardy was truly a citizen legislator who knew what it meant to sacrifice for the greater good. Senator Hardy has earned many titles throughout his long and distinguished career in medicine as a community advocate and volunteer and as an elected public official. The titles of doctor, bishop, and president of his church, assemblyman and senator, professor and associate dean of clinical education at Toro University, Boulder City councilman, and now mayor, and who could forget Doc, as he's well known, and star basketball player in the biennial Donkey versus Elephants basketball game. But today we remember him, or we are honoring him, to add the title of the Senate Hall of Fame member. I also want to add a little more information. Senator Hardy, Dr. Hardy, Doc Hardy, as we would refer to him, always had a smile on his face. He was always willing to work with everyone. And the members of this body who were here when he was serving knew that he carried a little index card in his pocket. And he'd pull out his index card. He had all his bills on there. And we talked about his mastery of legislation, and he always knew there would be a way for him to amend his legislation into somebody else's bill if he wasn't able to pass his bill. He did that many, many times, and he helped others do that. And as part of the role that you served here was as an outstanding legislator, but also as a mentor and also as a counselor. So members of this body could go to Joe because they knew he would give them sound, good advice. And I know I went to him sometimes to ask about different issues that were going on in this legislature. So I'm so grateful to have served with him in the Assembly and in the Senate. And I'm so excited to have him inducted into the Senate Hall of Fame today. Congratulations to Senator Hardy, and welcome.
Are there any further remarks from the floor? Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Resolution number 5, and just am so pleased to have with us who I think we all refer to as Doc Hardy here in the Senate. And it really has always been a pleasure. He has been here with me for my tenure during my service here, and I think have always been amazed and very appreciative of his willingness to come to the table and talk about pieces of legislation, whether they were his own or whether they were something that you were running or something that was coming through, Health and Human Services. And I know that he worked very hard to make sure that we could get the legislation to a good place, and was always willing to do that. And I think that speaks volumes to the kind of public servant that he is, and have always been very grateful for his willingness to do just that. Find a bill where maybe his bill could fit into, and to help us all kind of get to a good place, especially when it comes to public health policy. But always has been willing to have open conversations to discuss where things may be, and to ask really good questions. I've sat on the Legislative Commission with him, and have been on the Commerce and Labor Committee with him, and have been before him many times to testify on bills. And he was always someone who had read the bill that was before him and asked good questions and wanted to know more. And so I think that's exactly the kind of person that we love to have in legislative service, who are trying to find the right balance in policy and the right thing to do for Nevadans. I also would be remiss if I didn't also thank him for, at times, being sort of our resident doctor to help make sure that we were all okay, and whether that was checking in just to make sure, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? How are you feeling? or on the rare occasion where we needed a little bit of advice, to be able to provide that in such a kind way. And so I just want to say thank you for all of your public service and for being here with us today, and just congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. I have enjoyed our service together, and I know this body misses you very much in both your leadership and ability to help us navigate some of those issues that come before us. And so I rise in strong support and would urge my colleagues to also support Senate Resolution number 5. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Resolution 5. I've got very fond memories of serving with now Mayor Hardy. There was a time when he was a little upset at me. He felt that I voted no on his bills a little too much, and he called me Norenshaw. He said, "Are you going to vote no today on my bill, Norenshaw?" But we got over that. I was very proud in 2009 when he and I served in the Assembly together. He and I co-sponsored legislation to mandate health insurance coverage for children on the autism spectrum. He was the only physician legislator who co-sponsored that with me, and I know it was a big leap of faith for him because he didn't love the idea of another mandate in statute, but he felt that it was something that was really good, and I was proud to have you as a co-sponsor. And then Mayor Hardy and my mom served together in the Assembly, and speaking about his medical skills, there was a period when my mom was having an issue where her hands were getting numb, and she didn't realize she'd cut her finger till she saw the blood. She didn't feel it. And Dr. Hardy counseled her, like, Jeannie, this could be something serious. You need to get it looked at. And she got it looked at, and they told her if she hadn't gotten it looked at and then had surgery on her spine, she could have become paralyzed. So he's a wonderful doctor, wonderful legislator, wonderful friend, and I didn't vote no all the time. Thank you.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I proudly stand and rise in support of SR 5. As many of you know, I'm kind of new to the Nevada environment here, and my district is mostly was Senator Joe's district. And as I was walking door to door and talking to people, you think we'd be talking about taxes and other issues of the day, but the most common reaction I would get was about the love for Senator Joe Hardy and what he meant to the community, not only as a member of the church, as a veteran, serving in the legislature, serving in local government. This man always seems to want to give back. And when you talk to his patients, I think he delivered half the state of Nevada, because a lot of people that I ran into said, Dr. Hardy delivered me, and talked about the personalized service as he was known as Doc, a general practitioner that saw people with all different ailments. He made all of his patients feel worthy and important. And for those of you that are as old as I, you might remember a TV show called Marcus Welby, MD. This is our Marcus Welby, MD here in Nevada. It's because every patient was very important to him. My only regret is that I didn't have the opportunity to serve with you, Senator Hardy, but I will say that in all the years that I've been in office, there's been a few people that I like to call mentors, people that I can call on to give me good advice on how to better serve people. And sir, you were at the top of that list. And I really appreciate you. And my friends, as you've heard me say before on this floor, that in the scheme of things, life can be considered very short. But today, we are going to memorialize and recognize today, forever, Senator Hardy into this Hall of Fame. A good name that will be known today and will be known for millennia to come. It's an honor to have you here today, sir, and to induct you into the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Senator Hammond.
I rise in support of SR 5, and I'd like to talk to my good friend, Joe, move out of the way. Jill, without Jill, you don't have Joe. You never saw Joe in the building without Jill being in the building as well. Very rarely did I ever see them, and so the two come together. But I'll say this about, now that I've spoken something nice about Jill, and love you to death, and my kids are the ones who love you more than Joe, but I'll say this about Senator Dr. Hardy. Thoreau once said, as if you could kill time without injuring eternity. Here's a man who knows exactly what that means. He doesn't waste any time. He's never stopping He just keeps going. A card that you would pull out with all your bills on it, it would have all his bills on it, but it wasn't only his bills, as we know. He'd farm out a 7, 8, 9, 10 bills. We're only allowed, how many are we allowed? Like 20 bills, and he'd have about 35 bills out there because he never wasted any time. And so he was farming them out, and they'd come by and they'd check in. How's your bill? He was nice enough to call it my bill, but like, how's your bill? And so that's the guy who just understood that you can't waste time. You got to keep going. I mean, he always talked about how old he was. You know, I'm long in the tooth. I'm really old. And now what does he do in retirement? He becomes the mayor of his town because he loves his town. He loves his civic duty. That's the kind of person he is. He just keeps going because he doesn't want to waste his time that he has here and the people that he's around. He doesn't waste his time with, he doesn't waste his time with the trivial matters of the day. He cares about the big picture. So he's always careful to make sure he develops that relationship with people. Again, if you look at the character of good, honest, civic-minded elected officials, they have something in common. They care about the person and make that person feel like the most important person of that moment. And there's another example of it, Doc Hardy right here. And in closing, I'll say this: if there's nothing else I've learned from you, I've spent 2 or 3 sessions on judiciary where I felt like, I remember I had Senator Hutchinson and I had Senator Brower on each side, and after one session, I felt like I'd taken 1 year of law school because all they did was tell me everything that I didn't really want to know, but they just kept telling me things. Doc Hardy, I feel like I've gotten at least a little bit of medical school. And so the only thing I know, and I'll close with this, if you guys need any medical advice and you are stupid enough to come to me, I'll pass this along to you. It's 2 Aleve, twice a day for 2 weeks, and you're done. Doc Hardy, if I get nothing else from you than that, then I'm ready to go out in the world for the next 20-something years. So thank you, and I get our rise in support.
Senator Neal.
I rise in support of Senate resolution. So I just wanted to quickly say I've become super fond of you, Doc Hardy. My first time serving with you was in my first session on the Senate, and I was vice chair of Senate Commerce and Labor, and I think our leaning tendency showed up. And I think if my colleague was here from Senate District 1, I think more often than not, we were siding together to kill about 3 or 4 bills in her committee. And I was probably running the risk of getting in trouble because for whatever reason, I was thinking what you were thinking. I hate this bill. And that relationship really helped me to see how methodical you are and consistently. And I think we built a friendship from those experiences on Zoom, and then also when we finally got a chance to sit in the committee room. But I like how you think, actually. And it's been the weird relationship in this building of me being a D, but having our leans on certain policy. And so I'm so glad you're being honored and that you're now mayor of your city, that you won't allow to grow any further than what it is. But I appreciate it, and thank you, and I honor you for being here and being a friend to me. Thank you.
Senator Buck.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Resolution 5. Senator Hardy is such a special person. My first session was during COVID, during the height of COVID. He dedicated an hour each day from 5:30 to 6:30, Jill and him, to helping me through the session every evening. And sometimes when the going would get rough, he'd be like, "Come on, we're going on a field trip." And they'd take me for a drive all over northern Nevada, and I got to experience that with them. Such an amazing, genuine couple. He's a mayor, senator, professor, doctor, husband to Jill, father to 8, grandpa. He's just beloved. He's a mentor of mine. For that, I will be forever grateful. He's such a lifeline. I always know I can call him. In fact, just a couple of days ago, somebody was having trouble getting their PA license, and so they're like, call Doc Hardy. Oh yeah, okay. And sure enough, magically, she got her license. He's just an amazing lifeline. And Nevada is better because of him, because of his service. And I urge my colleagues to vote yes on SR 5.
Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to tell one quick one. Over the last election season, I was fortunate enough to have a group of students, young political leaders from Kenya and Botswana come visit, and I was having trouble getting some of the Republican campaigns to respond to my calls, but not Senator, Dr., and soon-to-be Mayor Hardy. He and Jill opened their home to this group of strangers, and true to Doc Hardy form, I had given him a couple of things I wanted him to talk about, and he didn't mention any of them. He went off and did his own thing, and he and Jill were just so kind to them. It was my first time in his home, and I certainly hope it's not the last. Very welcoming to his town of Boulder City, and I know that it's an experience that they will take with them, and that I took with me for the rest of my life, and I just really appreciate who he is, not to mention his sense of humor, which I don't think we've mentioned enough. He's a very funny guy, and not just funny looking. Yeah. But I think that all of you in this space who know him very much understand what that experience must have been like for a group of young political leaders from a different country to come on into Doc Hardy's home and hear a bit about what he does and why he does it. So thank you for that. I appreciate you, and congratulations.
Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and you all know this won't be lengthy. I rise in support of SR 5, but you know, Joe and I came here together in '02, and I'm just going to thank him. He was confident. I could go to him when I needed help, and he's the one that even said, hey, maybe you better go see a doctor. You're having a heart attack back, you know, but you know, again, Joe, I can't thank you enough. It didn't matter what the issue was. If I had an issue, I would go to him, and if he had an issue, he'd come to me. It's an honesty you don't really see all the time in this chambers. So, Joe, I thank you, and you definitely earned what you've got. Thank you again. Thank you all.
Seeing no further remarks, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Resolution 5 is adopted. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request that Senator Hardy be given the privilege of the floor to make remarks.
So ordered. Senator Hardy, you have the floor.
So my wife, you know, this is all about her. My wife, so Jill, this is what she said to me when I was getting up to solve somebody else's problem. She said, she put her hand on my leg, preventing me from arising, and said, "It's not about you." And that is true. It really isn't. It's about all of us working together and being together and enjoying each other's company, etc. What Jill and I, again, it's not about me. What Jill and I, we decided that when we die, our kids will come to the funeral. So we decided to have a pre-funeral. And that way, they didn't have to come to the real one. If they came to the free funeral, they got a pass. And so far, it's worked out very well. So we took one step further, and we had to get a picture taken, and so I called it our obituary picture, because you have to have one of those for the newspaper. So we've done everything we can in order to avoid this particular moment. But I would thank all of you individually and collectively for your willingness to do this process and to support those who are doing the process. And I'm grateful for the concept of forgiveness that you have forgiven me for. Thank you. I love people, and I enjoy helping, and I've been very blessed to be involved with this process in my home state. And I'm grateful for the associations that I've had. So thank you very much, and may the Lord bless you all. Thank you.
Congratulations, Senator Hardy.